I think it's absolutely time to normalize the power of your no. We shouldn't be guilted into saying yes to everything because we're Christians. I think there's a huge misconception that, oh, if you're a believer, you're supposed to be there for people. So you're supposed to say yes, no matter what, because it's not godlike, it's not loving, it's not like Jesus to not be there for someone or not do something somebody's asking you to do. But I think that because of that, people get drained and they get wore down because they're constantly putting themselves in a position where they're overextending themselves or doing things they have no desire or passion to do, which absolutely then takes you into a place where you are begrudging, right? You're doing it, but you're doing it angry. You're doing it, but you're doing it bitter, annoyed even. So the blessing is not even there anymore. It's better for you just to own the power of your no. And we always want to do everything we do in love. So of course, you're not going to say it rude. You're going to find your fabulous, wonderful, loving way to say how you cannot do the thing they're asking you to do. But I do want us to normalize it. I really think that it's time for us to stop the narrative that a Christian has to overextend themselves to be like Jesus, that we have to be the savior to everyone all the time. We have to loan anybody in the family money who's asking for it. We have to be there for every friend that needs us to show up for an event or a situation or have their back in a situation in life. If you're not able to do it and do it in love, then just own the power of your no. I think that's one of the things of stepping into this new identity. In the Becoming Method, I'm always sharing with my clients that it's okay for you to completely transition into the person that's moving in their authority. And sometimes authority is going to look like, I'm going to let you know what I can and cannot do. I'm going to let you know what works for me and what does not work for me. Because our number one assignment is whatever God has us on. And we always have to remember that. We're not here on this earth willy-nilly. We are here on this earth on an assignment. So, if it gets in the way or hinders you from doing your work, right? Doing whatever your purpose is, you're designed to do by God, the strategy God has you on, the steps he has you taking for the deadline he's given you, then obviously you have to say no. And that's okay. I think a lot of times we don't look at it like that. We don't look at it like our assignment is more important. Our assignment it has to be at the forefront. And so there's going to be seasons when we cannot just step out of what God has us on to be the savior for everyone else, So we have to own the power of no. Another way I really want us to look at the fact that we've got to own no is that we can't be there for everyone and every situation that they put themselves in, because then we're playing God. We're playing savior. And that becomes extremely dangerous, right? So owning who we are helps us to know fully the picture of our position in the kingdom, right? What has God called us to do? Who has he called us to serve, and how are we called to serve them? And when does that step out of line with us kind of stepping into savior, kind of stepping into the God-like position? If you're constantly there for somebody all the time, bailing them out, then when does God get to be God and teach them the lessons that he needs them to learn? And I think sometimes, especially as parents, I think that we sometimes don't look at it that way, and we don't realize how we are stepping into positions with our children that God should be stepping into. If we've taught them better, and if we bailed them out once or twice, gave them grace, gave them mercy, right? Much like God does to us, it's time for them to walk that walk and talk that talk, and it's time for them to learn that lesson. But look, if we're stepping in, how do they learn? How do we know how to move in our kingdom positioning, but also know when it's time to let go and let God? I think that's one of the things that we are always becoming more and more. But as long as we have our eyes and ears open to continue to grow, we have that ability to continue to become the better versions of ourselves that know how to own moments like that, for sure. Another way to look at the power of our no is kind of telling ourselves what works for us and what doesn't work for us. I think sometimes we are in positions where we don't tell ourselves no. Do we need that extra scoop of ice cream? Do we need to, stay up late tonight and watch that movie? So the power of no really is it's so full. It's like an onion. You're constantly peeling that one back. But there's a lot of ways to kind of look at how stepping into your authority helps you to change your perspective. When you're stepping in your kingdom authority and stepping in your kingdom positioning, you're becoming that version of yourself that God always designed you to be. You start to look at things a lot deeper. Simple things that you've been doing all your life, relationship wise, or even, like I said, in relation to yourself, right? You start to look at it a little bit deeper and you're like, hey, you know what? I got to switch this. Is this working for me? Is this working for me? Is this okay? And how can I begin to look at it different so that I get a different result and that I live the more abundant life?